Hey everybody, it's Mike here. Welcome once again to IncrediChat, brought to you by IncrediCon, the Hudson Valley's family-friendly comic and pop culture fest. Tonight we are really excited. I've got two great guests, two friends of mine. They're great people. We've done some shows with them, and again, very excited to have them. We'll bring them both in here tonight. It's a father and son duo. So this is the first for IncrediChat and IncrediCon. We have a father-son duo tonight, but both bring completely awesome and incredible artistic things to the table. We have Mahess, or M.W. Bennett, and his son, Tao Bennett. So let's welcome them to the show. Welcome to the IncrediChat with IncrediCon. How are we doing tonight, guys?
Pretty good.
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
No, again, thank you for doing this. I'm just trying to figure out which way our screen would be better, if I do it this way or this way. Hey, we can do it this way. Cool. We don't look as crunched up together. Anyway, so welcome to IncrediChat. So as I was just saying before, both of you guys, father and son, artistic family, 100%. Both do different styles of art. So for those of us who are following us, and folks, please, if you have any questions, please ask away. So share a little bit about what each of you guys do artistically.
Who do you want to go first?
We'll let Dad go first.
Okay. First, I want to say there is another. As you said, there is another. There's another son. Anyway, so I am currently active duty in the Army, and I retire in a few years. Next in a few months. And wow. That's going to be exciting for me. I get to do everything that I want to do, which is I'm a cartoonist, illustrator. I am a poet, spoken word artist, performer. I've just started animating. I have an animation that's coming out. You guys will check that out soon. I'm a writer, a published author. I have two novels and also a children's book, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. And I'm also working on my master's degree right now for social work. So I'm becoming a social worker, and I'll be combining my art. I'll be doing art therapy as well as regular counseling. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, let me just quickly ask you, where do you find the time to do all that?
Yes. Well, so when I retire, I'll have more time. So I got to balance everything. It's all about structuring and balance.
Got you. And Tao, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the cool things that you do.
Well, primarily I puppeteer. I make puppets. I perform puppets. It's kind of my bread and butter. I also draw quite a bit, cartoonist, and I write comedy, sketch comedy primarily. I have a group of friends that we do sketches together, both flesh acting and puppet acting. So yeah, what else do I do? That's kind of play drums.
So again, a very creative family, and you said there is another. So is the other one? Is he as creative as well? Is he doing his thing?
Asar, he's my older son, and okay. He is a painter. He does graphic art. He's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. He's really good, yeah. So he knows Japanese. So yeah, he has an anime style. He has different styles. He can paint realistic styles. He can do scenery. He does still art. Yeah, he's all over the place.
Wow. So again, a very creative family. So I mean, and this goes for both of you. Where does your inspiration lie? What got you started? Mahess, you actually have been doing you do a little bit of everything. Tao's primarily puppetry. Like what was your entry?
Wow. So I have the four my Mount Everest not Mount Everest
Mount Rushmore.
My Rushmore. There you go.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, watching Walt Disney, I saw Snow White. And for those of you who like Snow White, if in the 70s, I came across Snow White in school, and that was my first love for animation. Of course, comic books. I owe my literacy to comic books. I started. My uncle brought me a Justice League comic book. I always remember it was with Red Tornado, their first introduction to Red Tornado. And so I knew I wanted to do comics and draw from that point on and tell stories. And of course, there's George Lucas, watching Star Wars in the theaters when it first came out blew my mind. I knew I wanted to tell stories then. And of course, Jim Henson, growing up on Sesame Street. And that was those four right there was my biggest inspirations.
Gotcha. And Tao, a little bit of your inspiration.
Yeah, definitely Jim Henson, of course. But I early on, I guess my parents both were very keen on making me aware of other forms of art too. So they put me on to different forms of comedy. So I was very much into Mel Brooks. I think he's one of my biggest inspirations, Mel Brooks, and the work of Ralph Bakshi, who was a cartoonist. Yeah, those are, I think, three of my biggest inspirations.
Nice. So Tao, so I mean, you did mention Jim Henson. So for those people who are watching that don't know, and we already have a lot of comments coming in here, so we'll get to those in a minute. And folks watching, also, when we're done, check out all these links on the bottom too for both of their websites too. But so Tao, for those at home who are not watching, you started at quite a young age with your knowledge and interaction with the Muppets. So talk a little bit about that and the movie that you were in that kind of introduced you to the world.
Yeah, well, let's see. Growing up, I was always into the Muppets. I guess what really started me on the path to pursue it was it's so hard to say now. It's hard to pinpoint what it was, but I guess it was probably 8 years old. I saw the behind the scenes of Fraggle Rock, the making of Fraggle Rock.
Yes.
And there was a lot of footage of them, of big group shots and them just having fun and doing the thing that they do. And I thought, oh, that looks like fun. That looks like something I'd like to do. And it occurred to me that they get paid to do that. And I was like, oh, well, as adults, you can get paid to have fun and wiggle dolls. I'd like to do that. I was fascinated by the way they were built, by the way they moved. And the people that did the characters all seemed very interesting. And I felt like I had something to offer. Maybe I wasn't as aware of it then, but on some level I was. And so by the time I was 10, I started building my own puppets and trying to figure it out myself. And through that, I made a couple of Sesame Street replicas, and they were pretty terrible, but they were just to get by and figure out how it worked.
And again, you said you're 8 years old too, so
right. So that's a good excuse. I was living in Georgia at the time, and there's the Center of Puppetry Arts over there in Atlanta, and over there was a show being done by Leslie Carrara Rudolph, who does Abby Cadabby on Sesame Street.
Yes.
She was the first Muppet performer I ever met. I had to meet her because I wanted to get in that world. So I brought one of my puppets. It was an Ernie puppet I made, and I sat in the front row. She was doing her show, and she recalls that she was doing the show, and she noticed me with my Ernie puppet in the row, and couldn't keep her eyes off me the whole time. She was kind of distracted. And
he's watching the show like this. He has the Ernie puppet, and he's watching the show, and Ernie is reacting to things.
Yeah, independently of my own reactions.
Now, let me just ask too. So you meant and again, Leslie's a good friend of ours here too. She was on our show a while ago. Was her show featuring our good buddy Lolly?
Yes, of course.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So she, after the show, she asked me to stay behind and talk to her for a second, and that was pretty cool. And she told me that complimenting my puppetry skills at a young age, and at the time, which I didn't know back then, but they were working on Being Elmo, a documentary about Kevin Clash and his life and his career, and they didn't have a proper ending, and the producers were asking Kevin if he knew of anybody that he could be mentoring or trying to bring the story full circle. And Leslie had just met me, and so through a lot of jumping a lot of hoops, she got in contact with Kevin, and Kevin found out about me, and eventually I ended up in the documentary because they wanted to meet me and train me and stuff. Pretty cool.
Yeah, the producers set up a phone call with him, and so Lisa, my wife, and and I of course knew the setup, but Tao didn't.
Oh.
So yeah, so we set this phone call up, and he said he's gonna call at this time, make sure Tao's ready and everything, and it was a big surprise for him. So that moment in the movie where Tao was like, he says, "This is Kevin Clash." He says, "No, it's not." Like that was a real moment.
Yeah, I know that scene because he even mentions Leslie in that scene. He's like, "Yeah, Leslie Rudolph told me."
Yeah.
So that's
all. I was filming the other side, and I gave them the footage. I was hoping that they would edit it together, but they never used. I guess the footage the lighting wasn't good or something. But I filmed both angles. I was like, yeah, I had him on camera. Like, no. So there's footage out there of Tao, the other side of that phone call.
Wow. That was pretty cool. So Tal, what was it like? So you got that phone call. So I mean, you already had met Leslie, and for everybody who knows Leslie is an incredible, remarkable, energetic person. What was it like then getting that call from Kevin, and then getting them taken at that age through the Muppet Studios?
Yeah, it was. I couldn't think of anything to compare it to. Like it was very surreal, and I couldn't. Like you see that winner, I couldn't believe that he was calling me.
Yeah.
And Muppet performer calling my parents, hey, Cal, I'd like to bring you to the workshop and like show you around. Of course. So pretty cool.
And I'll ask you, Mahess, what was that like for you and your wife? Because here, I mean, you have this talented child, and all of a sudden, just this one chance meeting. Because I mean, we all get to meet, our idols, our celebrities, our favorite celebrities at the time. But that one meeting with Leslie, like, really opened up.
Yeah, the timing was amazing. It was all about. It's like the stars aligned at that time, because the fact that we met her when we did, right when they were at the position in the film, was amazing. And honestly, I'm gonna keep it real. My wife and I, we were a little concerned. We have a child whose only dream is to become a puppeteer, and yes, we support him, but we were a little afraid that if I just wanted to make sure that his dream was recognized, realized, so we did everything that we can to make sure that it happened, but a lot of it had to do with divine order, so we were just happy that that his career was moving in the direction that it was at that early age. So it was like, at some point we were just waiting for the other shoe to drop to catch it and to hopefully keep his dream alive. So we were happy that it was happening.
Well, and I mean, and that's definitely that. I mean, that's really good to hear, because there's a lot of kids, and as you both know, I work with young people, and especially young people who are interested in the arts. And sometimes these young people don't have those support systems at home, and the fact that you were there to support that, really kind of like mentored and really finessed what Tao was able to do.
Well, I really want to give my wife a lot of the credit. She because of my job, I wasn't able to be there physically, but she went. They filmed everywhere. They after the film was first of all getting him to New York. We weren't living in New York at the time. We're in Georgia, so that was a heartache for her. She made sure he was there to film the shots in the movie. And then after the movie came out, there were a lot of Q&As, viewing of the film,
screenings of the movie,
screenings and everything. So, and they were all over the country. So she was making sure that she got him there. What was the first one? Where was the first one in town?
It was in Utah. It was in Salt Lake.
Yeah, Utah. So she made sure that he got there to, and that was the big one. That was the very first one that was introducing the movie to the world, and him being there made a difference in that particular screening. So my wife Lisa, she was the backbone of this whole operation. So
absolutely. Well, and I'll share this funny. I'm sure I've told this to you, Tao, or your mom. When Being Elmo came out, I had gone to, was it the it wasn't the moving image, it was BAM. It was at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and Kevin was there with Elmo, and I was there, and you guys sang up on stage there, and I mean this is years before I even got to know you guys, but it's just funny again, like how things kind of like fall from a circle. Now I know you guys, but and again, I think I have video footage of that somewhere because we were videoing. We took pictures of Kevin afterwards too, but we have that. And I just want to go to a couple of the comments here, and we're going to start off with this comment here, and you'll recognize who this is from. This is from Mom. We would have moved heaven and earth for Tao.
Thank you
for all of our children. So
yeah, I really appreciate it. Like honestly, like if like I was very aware even back then that like if I didn't do it when I was younger, I like by this age, you know, if I tried to do it now, it would be a lot harder. I was aware of that back then, so I wanted to make sure that like everything that I could do was done, and anything that my parents could help me with, I was always appreciative of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just want to go through a couple of other questions because we got a lot of people who are popping in here today. I don't know, Caper Pat. I don't know if somebody got
with the high school this brother. What's up, man?
He said nice. We have Lori.
Gumanow. That's I know her.
She's hey guys, so glad to see you.
So
her son is a puppeteer as well.
That's right. Her son Jonah. Yeah, I knew him since we were like 11. We were kids.
Oh, very cool. We got who else? Trevor McEllow says love the Bennett men, incredible artists. He follows that one.
What's going on, Trevor?
Mars Goodman, I guess you were talking before, Mahess, about Justice League. He says that was his gateway drug to the world of comics.
Also went to high school with his brother too.
All right, cool. Mars also said love Ralph Bakshi. Everybody seems to love Ralph Bakshi. Here we got a question for you now, Tao, and it's from Anthony Thompson. He's like, Tao, what characters were you lucky enough to double as on Sesame Street while Puppeteers were otherwise occupied?
One of the first and like one of my favorite things I ever did was the two-headed monster. It wasn't like I didn't speak at all, but like in the background of the scene, Dave Rudman, who does the half the monster that I was doing, he was not available. I think he wasn't there that day, and they were just like, "Oh, we'll have the two-headed monster in the newsstand in the background." Like, and me and Jennifer Barnhart were puppeteering it, and we had a great time, and that was a lot of fun because like I love that character, and I love the puppet is amazing.
The farmers commercials?
Well, yeah, that. Well, I wasn't doubling for anybody. I was just right-handing for Ernie, but that was fun too. I really loved that too. I've done a lot of like fun stuff.
Nice.
Roosevelt Franklin, I doubled for him in one of the scenes.
Roosevelt Franklin.
Yeah.
That's the man.
Definitely.
A classic character. I mean, and again, so when you first got to the Sesame Street set, what was that like initially? Like, I mean, that must have been mind-blowing for you. Again, being a kid essentially, and getting to work with these folks. Yeah.
Well, I did. It's interesting. There were two different introductions to it for me. Like there was when I was 16, I started working as a puppeteer and like doing it like, you know, regularly. But when I was 11, they had me on the set like in an episode as a kid, as a like human on the street. Mm-hmm. And that was interesting too. And it was weird because
your dad was in that with you too, right?
That's right. Yeah, there were two different experiences, obviously, because you know, as a puppeteer, you have one job. As a human, you have a different job. And as a human, I saw all the things that I was hoping to see. I met Bob, I met Gina, I met Barkley. You know,
meeting Bob was surreal. I'm gonna tell you something. What was weird about we were in the green room the whole time. They were filming. We were watching them filming it from the back. And when they brought us out, they didn't give me any time to react because, mind you, I'm a grown man now, right? And I grew up on Sesame Street, so they brought us out. It's like, okay, we're about to film. They threw us out on the set. I'm like, I'm on Sesame Street. Like I couldn't take it in. I was just like, I was looking around. And it's like, and action. I'm like, wait, what? If you look at that footage, you can see on my face. I'm like, I'm starstruck. I'm like, I'm on Sesame Street right now.
And the whole time, like, you know, huh?
I said I wasn't ready.
Yeah, no, neither was I. the whole time we were, you know, I'm as a puppeteer and aspiring puppeteer at the time. I was, you know, I was talking to Elmo, reacting to him, but like I was really tempted to look down at the monitors and be like, "This is what I want to do down there."
I mean, I've been lucky enough to visit the set too, and like, yeah, it is like you were just saying, it is very awe-striking because it's like this is the place. It's been around for 50 years, you know, like everybody's
out watching the street.
everybody has been on it essentially. So which is really cool. So and I'm just gonna ask you this one question, and because I want to go on to your dad. I want to talk more about Cold Sober too. And maybe to mention a little bit about this. Trevor Maxwell Lowe wants to know, Tal, what is the next opportunity you aspire to conquer in your career?
I'd love to try stand up. I've tried it a couple times, but like I'd love to really like dive into it.
Now, let me just ask: if you were to do stand up, would you? And I mean, this is just for me also being with you and watching you interact with people. Would you be more comfortable as Tao, or would you like, you know, there's comedians like a Terry Fatter or Ron Lucas, for instance, all guys who have worked with, I mean, they're ventriloquists, but I mean, certainly you don't need to be a ventriloquist. Would you work with a puppet if a stand-up comedian, or you want to be just Tao?
Tao, because I think the best, well, at least as far as like I've seen, my favorite stand-ups are the ones that like are just themselves. Like they're not doing a character. Like there's Andrew Dice Clay, who's like a character. There's Emo Phillips, and you know, Emo Phillips is funny, but like I think the ones that I have the greatest respect for are the ones that just like share who they are as people and their thoughts, as opposed to them reacting to another character on stage with them, and having that be the routine.
Gotcha. All right, cool. And then we've had two questions. I'm going to just ask this. There are questions coming in. They want to know about your experience on the Macy's parade in 2011.
2011.
Sorry. So I guess, are there some funny stories from that?
Well, yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I was 11, and it was that was also very surreal. You know, that's a big tradition in my household, was watching the Macy's parade, and I always waited for the Sesame Street float. That was like the thing that I wanted to see, of course. And getting to be on it, and like knowing now what goes into that. When you watch it, it's like 11 o'clock in the morning, and you know, you watch it comfortably in your home. When you're there, you get up at 3 in the morning, and you're out in the cold, and you better hope that those hand warmers they put in your gloves actually work. Often they don't really, so your hands are just like in the puppet, just like, you know, tensing up because of the cold. But and me as a tiny little 11-year-old kid, it was funny because Marty Robinson, who was doing Kelly, I was Baby Bear next to in the window with him, and they gave me a little stool to sit on, and I think Marty put like maybe 3 or 4 cubes of foam on the seat so that I could reach the window.
You know, I want to say two things about this. First of all, if you get the DVD of Being Elmo, the extra footage actually has this. You can see all that he's talking about. But another thing is, I don't know if Ty remembers this, but he probably does remember. But we were in the theater. We were doing one of the screenings, theater in the Village. I forgot the name of that theater. And so at that particular one, I think I was at the moment when Tao got the idea to ask to be in the parade, because we were watching the movie. There's a scene in the movie where Kevin gets to be in the parade, and I actually see Tao like he makes a sound in the theater. I'm like, what's wrong with him? So then after we were walking out, he goes, I got to do something. I got to talk to Kevin about something. And we're like leaving. I'm like, well, what is it? He said, he didn't want to say what it is. And I think he didn't want to say it because he thinks we would probably would have said, no, don't do it, I guess. So he was like, I'd rather just ask for permission. I mean, for forgiveness and permission. And he went and asked. He's like, you know, and I thought it was funny because I was like, what is Tal doing? And he went and asked, and then Kevin made it happen somehow. I don't know.
Don't remember any of that. I'm sure it did happen. That sounds like me.
Yeah. But I mean, and that's one good lesson. And for any young people who are watching us here tonight too, like, I mean, you never know when opportunity is going to strike. You never know who you're going to meet. You know, and like in that case of that story was you went and you asked. You know, and if you didn't ask, who knows what would have happened? You know.
Yeah.
And you made those connections happen. Same thing with the Leslie part. You put the effort out there, and then you were then noticed, and look where it's led you to. So now I want to and it's, I mean, we could go for hours talking about Sesame Street, and we definitely can do that again too. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you guys have also been working on both of you. You know, one of the things we've been really focusing on during IncrediChat. Everybody's been home during this pandemic, you know, and I mean, there's so many things going on in our world, whether it be you know, issues about the pandemic, issues about diversity, you know, and I want to know what you guys are working on with that. And again, what are some of your thoughts about diversity in the arts and where that leads you as it inspires what you're doing?
Okay, well, that's a good question. First of all, yeah, so I have a children's book, as I mentioned earlier. It's called Create Your Own Path, and subtitle, It All Begins in the Mind. And it's in the main character is a young black kid who's loosely based on Tao. Mm-hmm. I named him after Tao's middle name. His name is Amir. And I'm relaunching. So you mentioned the pandemic. So in this pandemic, I'm like, you know, thinking of what I can do to improve the book. So I'm relaunching the book as a hardcover. I touched up the artwork in it, and I also did an animation for it. So I'm going to drop that soon as the book is available online. I'm going to drop the animation. It's an animated version of the book that goes along with it. So we launch it as a hardcover. And as far as diversity in the arts, you know, there's a misconception that you know, I've been hearing my whole life that the reason why, you know, Hollywood is not, you know, having fiction, you know, science fiction with main black characters in it, because the false narrative is that black people are not into sci-fi. And as a sci-fi geek myself, and probably all the people watching here, yeah, it's false. It's a lie. So I guess when Black Panther dropped, they learned, oh, there is a market for it. So now, thanks to the Black Panther movie, I think that was a great starting point for doors opening up. There's so many things coming out now that is starting to see that there are more than just the one quintessential concept of what a hero looks like, you know. And so now we get to see all different types of heroes, you know, whether it's queer folk or whether it's black, Asian, male, female, tall, short, you know. This is now, the doors are opening up.
Tal, how does that inspire your artwork that you're doing?
Well, I've never really been one for like specifying. Oh, yeah, I don't necessarily like to put a label on like the characters and the types of people that would live in the world that I create. You know, it's I think that comes from watching the Muppets. It was always very universal. It was rarely ever any kind of direct, you know, like this is for this people, this is for that people. It's, you know, however it affects you, however it relates to you is how it should relate to you. And so with the puppets that I, you know, they're all different colors, and they're not, you know, there's a couple that are based, that, you know, that have like an ethnicity, but very few of them have like a specified ethnicity. And the humor, the stories, they're also very broad and universal. And the artwork that I do, it's not about anything more than just, it's less about a cultural outlook and more about an individual outlook. So anybody that, like, you know, you interpret the art the way you interpret it. It doesn't matter like what like for me, it makes sense to me what I made. But if you see something else in it that I didn't intend, that's fine. You know, it all depends on your own point of view.
Mm-hmm. And you know, certainly, like you mentioned that about the puppets that you build, and this was something years ago, because I had met Kevin many years ago as well, and it was at a puppeteer workshop, and there was another young person, aspiring puppeteer there, who was pretty much asking, you know, like, oh, well, do you like to do accents, you know, kind of like what The Simpsons does, essentially, you know. And I mean, I'll just give a quick shout out. You know him, both of you guys know him. We had Jaden on here a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, he's really pushing to take on some of those roles of The Simpsons. So I mean, hopefully that works out. But someone asked, like, you know, whether doing different accents of characters, and Kevin pretty much said the same thing. Is like, all of our characters are different colors. Like there are no ethnicities on Sesame Street. You know, and I think that's one of the beauties of the Muppets. You know, and Sesame Street is like you have all these different animals and creatures and things just coming together. And I mean, everybody has their flaws, but everybody works through those flaws, you know, and that's.
Yeah, I always thought it was brilliant how Sesame Street used the concept of monsters as the way to teach kids. And, you know, it's you know, using something that's supposed to be scary and making it something so that children can learn from, and also learning not to fear something that is considered a monster. Of course, it's symbolic. The concept of monsters can be symbolic through other means. So I thought that was a brilliant way to teach.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also, what was I going to say now? Oh dear. Well, it's gone now. It might come back later.
But it comes back. So let's talk a little bit about these things that are scrolling down here on the bottom, because I'm sure. And again, folks, when we're done with this, go check out these YouTube pages and check it out. So let's start off with Dark Truth 22. What are people going to find on there? Tell us about that.
All right, Dr. 2022. I just recently put it up, so it's still it's in the development stages. But you're going to see all my art. You're going to see my animation. You're going to see my you'll get links to my books, like Sanjata. You know, this is my flagship character, Sanjata.
Let me give you the full screen so you can show that and talk a little bit more about that. Give me one second.
Yes,
great.
Sanjata, the Blood Wars. There it is. And he is an ex-mercenary who decided to live a life of peace, and he moved to a small town called Origin City, and then he learns that there is a serial killing that's going on, and he got blamed for it. But he also found out that he's connected to a race of people that was annihilated, and there was a blood war that happened years ago, and it's about to happen again. So he's trying to clear his name while trying to prevent the new war that's coming. And it's an entire world of different types of characters that deal with mysticism, deal with spirituality, deals with technology, also military. It deals with a whole lot of different things and different types of characters. So you'll learn about that character on my website. You'll get a link to get the book, and then of course there's Create Your Own Path, as I mentioned before. This is the original cover. Create Your Own Path. So like I said, it's going to be a new cover, and it's going to be a hard cover as well. So and there's going to be some animation coming shortly of the character. So yeah. And this is I call it a children's book for adults, because it's the adults that have read it to their children, they say, wow, I got something out of that book. So so I say it's from 6 and up. I don't say 6 to 12. It's 6 and up. I mean, adults get a lot of that book too. So you'll get a wide range of what I do on that website.
And for both of those things now, all the artwork and all the writing, that's all you.
Yes, all me.
Wow, that is amazing stuff. And you know, you mentioned something that I'll throw this to Tao as well. In regards to your military background, like, do you find a lot of inspiration coming for you? And then now you can start thinking about as a child of someone in the military. So I'm assuming
Army brat.
Well, I don't want to say army brat, but I mean, obviously you know your dad's in the military, and you've moved around with him to that. How has that led to what you've created? And we'll start with your inspiration.
Okay. I guess
either.
Okay. I didn't really grow up in one place. I grew up all over America, which is why I don't have an accent. Also, you know, because of the fact that I've been a lot of places, I feel like I've met different types of people, and I've known different types of experiences, and I've seen how people relate to each other in different areas of the world, or different areas of the country at least. That's definitely opened my eyes to a lot of cultural, I don't know, cultural things. I know, I feel like I'm aware of like stuff that informs the things that I come up with in terms of characters and stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the good thing about the military is that I mean, it's not a perfect system, but what I do like is that I met people that I would never have met just staying in any one state. You know, I'm coming across. I'm actually in the foxhole, literally, with people from the Midwest, people from another country, people from California, and being able that to the way that inspires my art is that I'm able to. So I like dialogue-driven stories, you know, and I like realistic dialogue. And I'm always paying attention to the way people relate to each other, and listening to someone, to two people or a group of people who are all from complete different backgrounds, have a conversation or bond together is a beautiful thing. And the military is the one place where you can actually experience that firsthand. So it inspired the way I write my dialogue.
Gotcha. So let me just ask, the Dark Truth Imagination, that has the animations that you were telling me that you were talking from.
Right, yeah. So the animation, I didn't drop that yet. Well, I do have an animation on there, but the one for Create Your Own Path should be dropping in the next week or two, so you'll see it on there. But Dark Truth Imaginations, my YouTube channel, also has some other art that you won't see on the website. So
gotcha.
You'll see my experiences and stuff, like when I was at Comic-Con and stuff like that. You'll see interviews that I've done there and some just things that I enjoy. You'll see it on there.
Well, and certainly let's talk about Comic-Con for a minute, because again, we want to shout out your wife and your mom, Lisa, because when you guys were here in New York, you guys had the Fort Hamilton Comic-Con, which was
the first Comic-Con in Brooklyn. Any Comic-Con that's ever comes in Brooklyn, we were the first to do it, and that was the brainchild of Lisa. She did that. She did that, and that was amazing. Like it turned out really bigger than. And if we couldn't do the third one, Trevor, pointing at you. Anyway, he knows what I'm talking about. But the third one, if we would have did a third one, it would have blew up. But yeah, it was a great experience, and that's Lisa's brainchild.
Yeah, no, absolutely on that. So and that's how I got to know you guys better and stuff too. And again, that was a great time. So Tal, let's talk a little cold sober. Tell us what is cold sober.
Okay, cold sober.
And I know Sage is watching too. She was in here before. I know she's in it.
All right, on. Yeah, she was in Cold Sober. It's a sketch comedy show that I created with some Puppeteer friends of mine: Alexander Mantilla, Sage Angusser, Sebastiano Ricci, Jaden LeBron, who you've interviewed before.
Yep.
Anthony White, Donato DeVito, John Cody. A lot of people were in this, and there was a lot of different reasons for making it. What it's about is it's about human interaction and how sort of often it is sort of absurd, or there's a sort of silliness, or there's an implied silliness to the world that we live in. And if you open your mind, if you let yourself just look at it objectively, look at everything objectively, you might find it all quite funny. Even no matter how absurd, no matter how sometimes disturbing or sad or whatever the world is, or a situation may be, with a hint of humor, or with a certain outlook, you'll find a bit of humor in it. And the reason that we made it, or at least that I got these people involved in it, was we're young puppeteers who we all have different goals in terms of art and puppetry and experience, and we'd like to gain more experience. And in the world today, it's just become a little bit more hard. It's become harder to get that from outside forces, to get that experience. So I just figured out, well, I'll do my own thing, and let's all come together, and we'll learn together. We'll learn on the job together. And so I learned a lot about creating a show, and so did everybody else that was involved. A lot of collaboration happened, and a lot of good times. And we kind of built it all from scratch, and it was quite fun.
It's really funny. If anybody hasn't watched it yet, definitely check it out. It's fun.
I want to say something about Cold Sober. I see Cold Sober in a different way. For me, it's a different experience for me, because to me, Cold Sober is coming of age, right? Because when Tyler first started doing creating his own puppets together. Sorry, R2 is talking to me. Tao and I came up with his characters called the Rumble Ensemble. Like we came up with it together, and then that was our little thing when he was a little kid, right? So then now he's like, yeah, I don't do that Rumble Ensemble stuff anymore. Like he's kind of like moved, like he's graduated to his own thing. Like I was helping him film and all that stuff, but then now it's like he doesn't need me, and that's a good thing. Like I look at that as it's like he's graduated. Like Cold Sober is his baby, it's his creation. And he left the other stuff behind, which is good to me. I look at it as a good thing. It's like it's like his way of saying subconsciously, like I'm an adult now. I'm a puppeteer. I'm a creator. I'm doing my own thing, and I can sit back and watch it and enjoy it as opposed to being a part of it and knowing the punchlines. I could sit back and look at it and not know what's going to happen next. And I'm looking at it as a fan now. So that's what Cold Sober is to me. Is like, and the name kind of goes together with that concept. So.
Yeah.
It's kind of
goal. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say it's kind of like, I watched it and it had a Muppet Show vibe to it, but I can't say if it was more of an SCTV. It definitely had like that Canadian comedy feel, whether it be SCTV or was it the Kids Next Door kind of thing.
Kids in the Hall.
Kids in the Hall. That's it. I'm wrong show.
It's a cartoon. It's interesting you say that because like there's a lot of different sources of inspiration in Cold Sober. It's kind of hard to point like every one of them, but there's Mel Brooks influence, there's Muppet influence, of course, there's Looney Tunes influence, and all that lovely sketch comedy that I've always enjoyed. You
like British humor too. I know you
British humor, yeah. Monty Python, there's a bit of that in there. A bit of Fly and Laurie. All kinds of everything that I could think of, and everybody that was involved. Sage, Frank Cesario, Alex, all these people brought their own elements to it as well. So it was a collaborative effort as much as we could make it. So, and my goal, I want to make more episodes. I want it to become a thing. It'd be nice. And my goal is that it's the kind of show that like anybody can watch. Obviously it might be a little intense for like a little kid, but it's not inappropriate for anybody, and it's also not aimed towards anybody in particular. I see it as like the kind of thing that I'd come home from a long day and maybe late at night, and I want to laugh, turn on Cold Sober. Hey, Cold Sober's on. This is a fun show. That's my goal.
Nice. No, I mean, absolutely. It was fun. And like, you talk about the collaboration between all the people you had on there. And I mean, I've said this to you, and I've said it to some of the other folks. I mean, you really are the next generation. I mean, the guys that are there now on Sesame and the Muppets, they're all fairly young still, so they're not going anywhere, but you really are the next generation after them. Like we're kind of in the second generation of Sesame and the Muppets now, So you definitely are going to be leading that charge to that third generation coming from the second, where those guys all were learning to get to where they are now. That's going to be you in like 20, 30 years, which is really awesome, and for your parents, that's definitely something to be very, very proud of. And I definitely let's talk about some of the questions that we have here, and that's actually a good lead into one of these questions here. So I always Sergini, and I know he's somebody come to some of our Comic-Con events that we've had too. He wants to get a job as a voice actor and a puppeteer. How can he do that? And so we'll ask that to you, Tal. But for your dad, and this goes for really any job in the arts. What do you recommend any parents watching for us to do for their kids? So we'll let you both tackle that.
All right. So from a parent's perspective, the key is to just support your child. I mean, it's really kind of simple, unless your child is selling drugs and doing illegal stuff. But as long as it's legal, and morally immoral, I say that just support your child, whatever the child is doing, and do the research on what are the avenues to help that child get into that field. Do the research and do the work. And again, I give credit to Lisa on that. She loves her research and she goes out of her way. She would give her last meal to make sure that so just support your child from a parent's perspective. It's that simple.
Yeah. And then as the person doing the thing, I would say if just research, really. I mean, find out everything you can with the field that you're trying to get into. With puppetry, well, in the Muppet style of puppetry, what I did was, I watched everything that I could find. Literally everything that was like on that has surfaced. I found it. I looked at it and studied it multiple times. Studied it to the point where my parents actually were like, "You need to relax." Like I remember one day when I was like going into, I think, second grade, and Dad, he was like, "Listen, Tao, you gotta make sure that you're into you open yourself up to other things in terms of art and life, because if you only put all your eggs into the puppetry basket, not only will it limit you in terms of what you know, but also it's not. Yeah, I mean, it'll limit you in terms of what you know. Pretty like that's the bottom line. And so learn about the thing that you want to do, and also everything that's around that. So voice acting, it's not just voice acting; it's also acting, and it's improv, and puppetry is also built on that, and like a lot of physical things are built into that. Anatomy is important to know. I'm getting very technical, but like every possible thing you could find on the subject, learn that, and learn everything that leads you down another rabbit hole.
Gotcha. Yeah, and try to also work different muscles, and I mean that kind of symbolically, but also literally. So that one of the things that, in my opinion, maybe Tyler, you could tell me if I'm wrong. I think one of the best things that worked for you as a puppeteer is tada, which is kind of a good segue into pork. But once you got into tada, and maybe you could talk a little bit about what tada is, so that people know, that I think that helped him to work different artistic muscles that he wasn't using before.
Yeah, no, definitely. Tada is this youth theater group. It's based in Manhattan, Tada Youth Theater, and it is a really good training ground for young aspiring actors and performers for ages 8 through 18. And I joined Tada when I was 12, not long after Being Elmo came out, actually. And it was the 6 years I spent at Tada were very important years of my life. I met a lot of people who, helped me to bring myself forward in terms of my artistic inclinations. I learned about different types of art, different movies, different types of music, and different comedians, and that informed the puppetry that I wanted to pursue. In fact, before I joined, my mother was saying, you should do this thing, you should do tada, and I was like, I don't really like to do theater. I'm not a big theater person, just because puppetry, I wasn't the one being seen; it was the character, and I'm more into film and TV. Live isn't my thing. But she convinced me otherwise. She was like, yeah, if you do live theater, you'll learn how to you'll be stronger as a performer and as a conceptualizer of ideas. And I learned improv. I sharpened my improv at Tada. I learned about all kinds of things, physicality, moving. I became aware of my body, which is important for puppetry as well. And I met some great people who I now write comedy with. That's where comes in, which is the comedy group that I formed at Tada. Yeah, it's these things are important. Networking is important.
I did want to ask you one thing, and this is something that a lot of young people face. Being a young kid playing with puppets, and puppeteering. Were there any times that people looked down at you and be like, "Hey, why are you playing with puppets?" And as a young artist, because I know, and it's not necessarily just even puppetry, but any kind of art that somebody might be interested in doing, their peers may not get it. How do you get past that? When other kids your age are like, "Oh, well, why aren't you playing video games with us? You're outside playing basketball with us." How do you keep that focus instead of trying to fit in with that crowd, for young people who are watching?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not the easiest thing to do because when you're a kid, you want to experience, you want to, and in the moment, often it's like, oh, well, this is happening right now, this exciting thing. But as a kid, I think it's important to an extent to focus on your future and what you want to do. Like I was saying earlier, I knew pretty early on that like if I didn't try to pursue what I wanted to do when I was young, it would be hard to do when I was older. Just because of when you're older, you have more responsibilities, things that you have to keep track of. And so I kind of kept that in mind. I was like, well, the goal really is to do this puppetry stuff and to make art. And even though like right now I'm not really, I mean, it wasn't even that for me. It wasn't that bad. It's different for everybody. But I think what's important is to try your best to surround yourself with like-minded people. Like one thing that what helped me was obviously there's not like puppeteers roaming around all the schools when I was a kid, but there were funny people. I was very attracted to people. Any person that like I thought was kind of humorous, we were kind of bonded that way. So I think it's important to surround yourself with people that are inclined in the ways that are, if not the same, similar enough to you. You have something to talk about.
Yeah. And, I mean, and I guess, and I'll speak on this as an educator, and I'm sure you probably had teachers that saw your potential and encouraged you, because I know as an educator myself, I'm always looking for that kid who's sitting in the back of the classroom with their little notepad, or they're doing their doodles or they're writing, and I always gravitate for those kids, because sometimes unfortunately with the arts, they're not always, they're like the forgotten group of kids, and trying to give them that voice. Yeah.
So
I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. Definitely.
Couple of comments here for you guys here. I forget if we asked this question. This came from Trevor. Trevor wants to know, Tal, what's the next opportunity you aspire to conquer in your career?
Yeah, I'd say stand-up, but I also, I'd like to be in a,
right.
Yeah, I want to do stand-up, but I also would like to be in a doo-wop group. That's more of that's more of just kind of a jokey thing, but also kind of fun to do. Why not? Baritone.
Well, I just learned something now. I had no idea.
Well, Charles Harris wants to know, would you consider going on America's Got Talent? You don't need to. I mean, you could, but you could do doo-wop on America's Got Talent, right?
Good. I could try all kinds of things. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's on the horizon at the moment. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe one day.
Let's see what else we have here. Oh, okay. Well, Lori, he kind of answered this question, but I'll throw this out there again. But you kind of talked about this when you were talking about your experience as Tal on Sesame Street. Which is more difficult for you, being a puppet character or a live actor?
I guess a live actor, because with puppets you have the physical thing that like informs the character. I mean, live acting, it depends on the script too, but usually it's easier to tap into a character that's stronger and more bold if it has a certain look to it, and because then you could also add a different voice. If you try to change your voice as a human actor, you could, but it's people are more inclined to buy it if you are if it's a puppet.
By the way, Laurie's son, who just asked that question, he was also into that.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Jonah.
Very talented boy. Yeah. Well, man now. He's a man now.
Yeah.
I see them as kids. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing. There's so many young people who are now coming out, and just like you're seeing this amazing talent, and certainly the world that we live in now of the internet and YouTube and TikTok. Geez, everybody's making videos now. It's interesting. I just want to throw these two things out here too. One from Mars. Obviously, we mentioned, and just give the love to Fort Hamilton Comic-Con. Mars said, yay, at Fort Hamilton Comic-Con, and Lori, Fort Hamilton Comic-Con was awesome. And, of course, Mom and wife, Lisa said, I'm glad you got to experience it. So we're going to be wrapping up here in a minute, but I just want, I guess, if you guys want to just share a couple of things, again, while we've been in this quarantine, is there anything that we have to look forward from either of you? We'll start with you, Mahess. You have the book, you have the animations, the website. Any other things that are going to be coming from this time?
Yes. I'm working on. I have a friend named Micah Blacklight. He's another amazing artist. If you go to IamCatalyst.com, I hope I didn't mess that up. But him and I are working on a project. It's early in the stages, but that's something that came out of this quarantine that we are always bouncing ideas off each other. And by the way, it's always good to have a like-minded friend or friends that you can bounce ideas, as Tal mentioned earlier. And Micah Blacklight is one of them. So I'm always writing, continuing to write. I'm also working on a nonprofit organization, and I'm doing working on a business plan right now. It's called Project Manhood, providing real opportunities for juveniles entering carefully to manhood. Project Manhood, and I'll be starting that in Atlanta. It's a nonprofit organization helping young Black boys from age 8 to 18 coming of age. To help them learn things that they can't learn in school, like financial literacy. It's a gambit, entrepreneurship. I'm going to be hiring all types of professionals to help me with this, not just coming from me. I'm going to be so I'm working on that constantly. Working on my degree right now too. So yeah, so that's what I've been working on.
Awesome. And Tao, any other cool videos coming your way?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Pork, the non-puppet related sketch comedy group. We just put out a new sketch tonight, like maybe an hour before this live stream. So there's that.
And where can people find that? That's where?
Yeah, that's on Party of Regal Crusaders. That's on YouTube.
All right, cool. And that's on the bottom down there.
Yeah, you could find that in the link there. Yeah.
So I haven't even seen it yet.
Yeah, it came out like an hour ago. But also Cold Sober. I'm always writing stuff. I'm constantly coming up with new stuff, collaborating with the guys that were helping me out with the initial project, and we're gonna do. We're planning some things. They're kind of early in the stages right now. But we're making some new stuff right now.
And let me ask you. I know there's a lot of stuff on Sesame at home right now. Is there anything coming up Sesame for you?
Yeah, but I don't know how much I can talk about it at the moment.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah,
keep your eyes peeled, essentially. Then.
Yeah.
He has something really exciting coming up on Sesame Street. So
yeah. But I'm not sure where they're at right now in terms of the.
Yeah.
And and Tal, I have to tell you, I think you've hit a nerve with some people tonight because we've already got the requests from Josh. You go on the doo-wop. So people, and then Mark corrected him on that.
Thank you.
So you got to do the doo-wop now.
One day, bucket list.
And Marvin Cole wants to just share. Look forward to assisting with Project Manhood, and certainly when you get that up and running, we'll help you promote that too. From our end here and get a lot of the folks that we know. Jonah says thanks, and he misses working with you from Lori.
Likewise.
he
And
said hi, Lori.
And Marvin's gonna watch some Cold Sober.
Lovely. Do.
Cool. So yeah, no, this was great tonight. And I mean, certainly there's so much more we can talk about. I know more than an hour. And I mean, once the convention world gets up and running again, we'll all be back together in person.
Yeah. By the way, we both went to art and design.
Oh yeah, we art and design high school.
Oh, what's that again? You both went where?
To art and design. We both went to art and design high school, so it's kind of a full circle thing there.
Yeah. So shout out to anybody who's going there. So yeah, no. Again, this was really fantastic tonight. And again, I appreciate both of you joining us for your time. From both coasts.
So right. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
This was a first, and for everybody watching, tune in next week. I have Dan Parent. If you guys know Archie Comics, Dan Parent, he does most of the artwork for Archie of the classic style. So he's gonna be with us here next week. So once again, guys, thank you for tuning in to IncrediChat. You guys just want to hang out here when we go backstage. We'll just wrap up. So again, we'll see everybody next week on IncrediChat. Thank you again, Mahess and Tal.
Peace. Thank you.